The desert was silent that night. Too silent. Even the coyotes had gone quiet, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Under the silver glow of the half-moon, the wind rolled across the open plains, carrying the faint scent of rain and danger. Somewhere in that vast loneliness stood a small wooden ranch, the Miller Ranch, with its fences leaning tiredly, its lantern flickering against the dark. Inside, a man sat by the fire, his eyes fixed on the flames, like he was searching for something long lost in them. His name was Cole Miller, a man shaped by hard years, dust and silence. The kind of man who'd seen too much, spoken too little, and trusted no one. The townsfolk called him the quiet Cowboy, the kind who'd ride through a storm, with his hat pulled low and never complain. He'd fought in border skirmishes, worked cattle until his hands bled, and buried more than one friend under that same dry red dirt. But even after all that, there was a strange peace in him, the kind that only comes to those who've accepted that life owes them nothing. That night, as the wind howled across the plains, Cole poured himself a cup of black coffee and looked out toward the horizon. Lightning flashed far away, maybe 20 miles east, and for a brief second, he thought he saw something move near the creek bed. At first, he ignored it. The desert plays tricks on tired eyes. But then he heard it, a scream, faint but sharp enough to cut through the roar of the wind. Cole's instincts kicked in like fire in dry grass. He grabbed his rifle, swung onto his horse, and rode toward the sound. The night swallowed him whole, but his heart knew where to go. Down by the old creek, 3 horses stood tied to a broken fence, and beside them 3 bandits. They were rough-looking men, drifters maybe, the kind who live by the gun and die by it. One of them was holding a girl, young, barely 18, her dark hair tangled, her dress torn. Her wrists were bound, her eyes filled with terror and defiance. Cole didn't think, he just acted. He fired once, clean, precise, and the man holding the girl dropped to the ground before he even knew what hit him. The other 2 spun around, guns drawn, shouting curses, but Cole was faster. 2 more shots. 2 more bodies fell. The echoes rolled across the plains, swallowed by the wind. Then silence again. Cole dismounted, breathing hard. The girl was trembling, trying to stand but too weak to move. Her lips moved, whispering something in Apache, a language Cole didn't fully understand, but had heard before in the borderlands. He knelt beside her, untied her hands gently, and said in a calm voice, "You're safe now." But her eyes, dark, wild, and deep as midnight, told a different story. She looked at him not with fear, but with sorrow, as if she knew that saving her might have just sealed his fate. Cole lifted her onto his horse and rode back to the ranch. The whole way she didn't say a word. She just kept glancing at him, studying him like she was memorizing his face. When they reached the ranch, he laid her on a bed inside, gave her water, and covered her with a blanket. "Who were they?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then whispered, "Men from the trading post. They tried to take me." Her voice was shaky but proud. Cole could tell she wasn't used to asking for help. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ayana," she said. "It means eternal blossom." He nodded. "Well, Ayana, you're safe here tonight." But deep down, Cole felt a tightness in his chest. He knew saving an Apache girl wasn't something the desert would forgive easily. There were old hatreds buried in this land, like dry bones waiting for a reason to rise. As the night stretched on, the rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy. Cole sat by the window watching it. The girl slept fitfully, mumbling in her language, her hands twitching like she was fighting ghosts. He wondered what kind of pain she'd seen, what kind of fire she'd walked through to end up here. When dawn came, the world outside smelled clean. The rain had washed the dust from the earth, and the sun climbed slow and golden over the hills. For a brief moment, everything looked peaceful again. Cole fed the horses, poured 2 cups of coffee, and stepped inside to check on her. Ayana was awake, sitting by the fire, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked fragile, but there was a quiet strength in her eyes now, the kind that comes from surviving what others wouldn't. "You can rest here a few days," Cole said. "Ain't nobody gonna bother you." She looked at him long and said softly, "You are kind. But you should not have saved me." Cole frowned. "Why not?" "Because now they will come." The words hung in the air like a shadow. He tried to brush it off, telling himself she was just afraid. But something about the way she said it, calm, certain, chilled him to the bone. That evening, while fixing the corral fence, Cole noticed something strange. The horses were restless. The air felt heavy, charged. He saw movement in the far hills, small, dark shapes against the sunlight, moving slow and deliberate. At first he thought it was cattle, but then he saw the glint of spears. His heart dropped. He went inside quietly. Ayanna was standing by the window, her face pale. "They've found me," she whispered. Cole loaded his rifle, his jaw tight. "How many?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "All of them." As the sun sank below the ridge, the ground began to tremble. Drums echoed faintly in the distance. Cole stepped out onto his porch and saw them, stretching across the horizon, like a living sea of horses and warriors. The Apache had come, not 10, not 20, but 150 riders, their feathers glinting in the dying light, their eyes fixed on his small, lonely ranch. Ayanna stood behind him, clutching his arm. "You should run," she whispered. Cole didn't move. He looked at the endless line of riders and said in a low, steady voice, "I don't run from what's right." And as the first war cry tore through the evening air, the man who had lived a life of silence knew this was the moment his past, his courage and his fate had all been leading to. Because sometimes one act of kindness can set the whole world on fire.